She tried, I think, switching on her camera, and Janvi, can you switch on your camera?
Yes, ma'am.
So every day, this is one thing which you will do. You will switch on your camera, everybody, and good evening बोलेंगे. उसके बाद आप
If you don't
camera,
show your
camera.
faces,
हाँ.
finally I've seen Janvi.
Oh, she's a very bright girl.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, bete. अरे मैं कभी, if I ever come to Maharashtra, I should be able to recognize you people, no?
Yes, ma'am.
If you show me your face, how will I know? All right, good. Now I've seen Janvi, I'll be able to recognize her. All right, let's start with the class, bete. Okay, so today we are going to, we'll be reading Unit 1, Chapter 3, the COP and the Anthem. Anthem is a prayer, right? You know, national anthem? Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So anthem is song, prayer. And COP is, who's a COP? Policeman, right? A policeman is also called a COP, right? Okay, let's begin with the icebreakers. Suppose you have icebreakers, हम क्यों करते हैं? Because when you discuss this, you are tuned to what is going to come in the chapter. You start thinking in those words, those ideas, and you are able to connect better to the chapter. इसीलिए we do these ice-breaking activities, all right? Suppose you've gone to a place where winter season is very severe. Discuss with your partner the ways in which you can protect yourself in the cold climate. So you've gone to a place where it's very cold. हम लोग सर्दियों में, lot of people go to Shimla, go to Jammu because they want to see snow, right? So if you go to a very cold place, how will you keep yourself warm? You can tell me orally or you can write in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. ठीक है? आप chat में लिख सकते हैं और आप मुझे orally भी, you can tell me. How do we keep ourselves warm during winters? One is wearing warm clothes, sweaters, jackets, socks, gloves, cap. Yes?
Yes.
So one is wearing warm clothes. What else do we do? Drinking hot beverages. Garam garam chai, garam garam doodh, right? Garam garam kahwa. We love to sip hot drinks in the winters, right? What else? We wear warm clothes, we sip hot drinks. Another thing is, you sit near a fire. हम आग तापते हैं ना? We'll have a bonfire और फिर हम हाथ सेकते हैं. Have you ever done that in winters?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Another way is that you stay near a fire, or nowadays we use heaters in our rooms. Remember? If we are indoors, we use heaters, electric heaters. They also keep our rooms warm, right? And finally, we eat healthy and warm food. Garam cheezein khate hain hum sardiyon mein, which gives our body heat and energy and nourishment, right? कुछ लोग गोंद के लड्डू बनाते हैं सर्दियों में. Why? Because it gives us lot of nutrition, lot of body gets a lot of heat from healthy food. Dry fruits are warm, so they give our body nourishment and warmth. So these are the 4 things we do in winters. We wear warm clothes, we drink warm beverages, we sit next to fires or electric heaters, and we eat healthy and warm things, right? That is what we do. Okay, let's look at the second question. When you see a cop approaching, you either feel relieved or scared. So when do you feel relieved and when do you feel scared? Relieved is when you say, Shukar hai, police wale uncle dikh gaye. Right? You're happy to see a policeman, that is relieved. Scared is, oh my God, police wale uncle aa rahe hain. Right? So, relieved is when you're happy to see a cop, and scared is when you're scared of seeing a cop. So, this is when are you relieved and when are you scared? Who will tell me? When are you relieved to see a cop? कब होता है कि हमें पुलिस वाले कोई पुलिस की वर्दी में दिखते हैं, पुलिस ऑफिसर, हम कहते हैं शुक्र है, now I feel safe. If you're alone on a dark street, right? If you're alone on a road and you're feeling scared and you see a policeman, you're like, now I don't have to be scared. There's a policeman here. There's a cop here, right? When you're walking alone in a dark street. Second is if you've lost your way. If you are in a market or at an exhibition or a mela and you can't find your parents or you can't find your friends and you see a cop, you're like, okay, thank goodness. Now I'm going to ask this cop for help and he's going to help me find my friends or my family, right? What is the third situation when you feel relieved? When you're happy to see a cop? If somebody is troubling you, somebody is trying to take away your purse or saying wrong things to you, is being rude or misbehaving, right? Then you are happy to see a cop. अब मैं इसकी शिकायत कर सकता हूँ. Now this person will run away looking at a cop. Otherwise, I will have this person punished or arrested, right? So when we are in a problem, we are relieved to see a cop. We are happy to see a cop. Relief is shukar hai. Police wale dikh gaye, uncle. Now I am safe. Now I can ask for help. So when you need help, that is when you are relieved to see a cop. Now, when are you scared to see a cop? You'll be scared when you're doing something wrong, when you're breaking rules, right? You're on a bike and you don't have a license. You're on a bike, you're not wearing a helmet, right? That is when you're going to be scared. Or you have jumped a red light. There was a red light and you still cross the junction. You did not stop at a red light. That is when you feel scared. Oh God, I think he saw me jump the red light. Now he's going to give me a challan or punish me or scold me, right? So you're scared when you are breaking some rule. And you think now the policeman is going to punish you. Or you're carrying something illegal that you're not supposed to carry with you, right? Which nobody is allowed to carry. You have something on you which is illegal, which is wrong, which is a punishable offense by law. So law can punish you if you have that thing with you. So it could be drugs, it could be a gun, it could be anything that is not allowed, that you are not allowed to have in your pocket. Or a child carrying a cigarette. Children are not allowed to smoke, right? So if you're a child and you're carrying cigarettes or tobacco, you can be punished. You will feel scared when you see the policeman. Okay? So same cop, same policeman. Depending on the situation, you will feel relieved or you will feel scared, right? Okay. Discuss some of the motivating things that can change a person's life. Let me translate this for you. Let me know if you can hear the translation. Were you able to hear the audio?
No, ma'am.
No? I don't know why this happens. Let me try once more. Let me share screen.
एखाद्या व्यक्तीचे आयुष्य बदलू शकणाऱ्या काही प्रेरणादायी गोष्टींवर चर्चा करा. त्यापैकी एक खालीलप्रमाणे आहे.
Were you able to hear it this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So next time I'll share screen as well. Okay. So what are the things that can motivate you?
Reading
Prerna
motivational books.
Yes. Listening to an inspiring speech, reading motivational books. Can you name a motivational book?
Wings of Fire.
Yes, ma'am. Agnipankha.
Wings of Fire. Very good. Agnipankha. So, listening to speeches, reading motivational books. What else? Meeting a successful person. In the school, when there are functions, why do they invite successful people? To motivate us, right? They will call a successful politician, a successful officer, government officer, army official, or an inspiring book writer, or a cricketer, somebody who has done well in life. Why do they invite them to school for school functions? To motivate us. प्रेरणा देने के लिए, right? So meeting someone who is successful is can also change a person's life. That is why schools always invite successful people to school functions. And the fourth one is very important, learning from your own mistakes. So I did something and then I realized that's wrong. So next time I don't do it. So I learn from other people, but I also learn from my mistakes, right? Okay. So that is what motivation looks like. Let's move on. Let's read the story. O. Henry is a pen name. So that is the name that William Sidney Porter uses when he writes his stories. So his real name is William Sidney Porter and his pen name is O. Henry. He was a voracious reader since childhood. He started a humorous weekly, The Rolling Stone, and when the venture failed, he joined the Houston Post as a reporter, columnist, and occasional cartoonist. The story, The Cop and the Anthem, is one of O. Henry's well-known stories. So he used to write short stories. To describe his style of writing, people have often used the term smile with tears, which implies his twisted way of thoughts and endings in almost every story. So O. Henry's stories are famous for surprise endings, and he makes you smile and cry at the same time. So that's the kind of stories he writes. In this story, the main character, Soapy, is a vagabond and a person with a criminal background. He makes different plans to re-enter the prison as he has no shelter to protect himself from the severe winter. The story ends in an unexpected way. O. Henry has depicted Soapy's futile attempts to get arrested in a very humorous vein. So what is happening in the story is, Soapy is a person who's living on the streets. And it is going to be very cold. He doesn't have a place to stay. So he thinks, if I get myself arrested for something, I can go to jail. And in jail, I'll at least be spared from the severe winter. Okay. So Soapy wants to go back to jail to protect himself from the cold. But the ending is unexpected. Let's see what the ending is. The Cop and the Anthem is about freedom and confinement. Initially, Soapy feels that there is freedom from miseries and worries in confinement. So Soapy feels if I'm in jail, I'm going to get food, I'm going to be warm, I don't have to worry about anything. The notes of Anthem transform him from within and he resolves to work hard. Soapy faces the irony of fate as the moment he realizes the real freedom lies in a virtuous life, he's taken into confinement. So that means Soapy wants the police to arrest him so that during the winter he is comfortable in jail. And then he realizes, no, I shouldn't be in jail. I should try and be a good person. And when he does that, what happens? He gets arrested. Right? That's the irony of this. What is irony? Vidambana. Okay? So when he wants to be arrested, he is not arrested. And when he doesn't want to be arrested, he gets arrested. Okay? The Cop and the Anthem. Soapy left his bench and strolled out of the square and across the level sea of asphalt, where Broadway and Fifth Avenue flow together. Up Broadway, he turned and stopped at a luxurious cafe. So he's at this road where the two roads meet and he stops at a expensive cafe. Soapy had confidence in himself from the lowest button of his vest upwards. He was shaven, his coat was trim and neat, and his neat black bow had been presented to him by a lady missionary on Thanksgiving Day. So in jail, he had got this bow. He was clean shaven, his coat was neat, and he was wearing this bow. If only he could reach a table in the restaurant unsuspected, success would be his. Portion of him that would show above the table would raise no doubt in the waiter's mind. A roasted mallard duck, thought Soapy, would be about the thing with a bottle of wine and then some cheese, a cup of coffee and a cigar. $1 for the cigar would be enough. The total would not be so high as to call forth any extreme of revenge from the cafe management, and yet the meat would leave him filled and happy for the journey to his winter island. So he decides that I'm going to go to this restaurant. He says, if you look at his vest, he looks like a decent person. So he's going to go sit in the restaurant. He's going to order some food. He won't order too much or he will not be able to. He can be fined heavily, but he will order just itna so that his tummy is filled and then he can be arrested and taken to jail. Why? Because he can't pay the bill. Right? So that was Soapy's plan. But as Soapy set foot inside the restaurant door, the head waiter's eye fell upon his tattered trousers and decadent shoes. But the moment Soapy entered the restaurant, the waiter saw that his trousers were torn and the shoes were very old and falling apart. Phate toote jute, right? That is decadent shoes. Strong and ready hands turned him about and conveyed him in silence and haste to the sidewalk and averted the ignoble fate of a menaced mallard. So, when the head waiter saw him and stared at him, he had no choice but to quickly walk away from there. Right? So, his plan had failed. Soapy turned off Broadway. It seemed that his route to the coveted island was not to be an easy one. Some other way of entering the limbo must be devised. Now he says, I can't go to the restaurant. Now I have to think of some other way to be arrested by the police. Entering the limbo means to be arrested and sit in the police van, police jeep, police car. Okay. At a corner of 6th Avenue, electric lights and cunning displayed wares behind plate glass made a shop window attractive. Soapy took a stone and dashed it through the glass. People came running round the corner, a policeman in the lead. Soapy stood still with his hands in his pockets and smiled at the sight of brass buttons. So what did Soapy do? He took a stone and he threw it on the glass of a shop. The glass broke and he just stood there with his hands in his pocket. कि अब तो मुझे पुलिस पकड़ लेगी. Now that I've broken the glass of the shop, they are now going to arrest me. So he keeps standing there with his hands in his pocket and smiles at the sight of brass buttons. Brass buttons माने पुलिस वाले के ड्रेस में brass buttons होते हैं ना. So when he saw the policeman, he smiled. Where's the man that done that? Inquired the officer agitatedly. So the officer is angry, irritated, and he's asking, who threw this stone? Who did this? Don't you think I might have had something to do with it? Said Soapy in a friendly voice as one greets misfortune. So Soapy wants the policeman to doubt him and arrest him. So he says, maybe I had something to do with it. हो सकता है मैंने किया हो. Right? So, and he says it in a very friendly manner to the policeman. Why? Because he wants the policeman to arrest him. The policeman refused to accept Soapy even as a clue. Men who smash windows do not remain to chat with the police. They take to their heels. The policeman saw a man halfway down the block running to catch a car. With drawn club, he joined in the pursuit. Soapy, with disgust in his heart, drifted along twice unsuccessful. So when he tells the policeman, हो सकता है मैंने किया हो, the policeman says, no. Whoever does this would have run away. You don't stop there and chat with the policeman. Because Soapy was still standing there. उसको लगा if Soapy had done it, he would have run away. So again, Soapy is not arrested. Road पे एक बंदा भाग के कार पकड़ने के लिए भाग रहा होता है. The policeman thinks, oh, that guy is running away. He must be the one who has done this. And the policeman starts running after that man. So again, Soapy is unsuccessful. He is not arrested by the police, by the cop. On the opposite side of the street was a restaurant with no great pretensions. It catered to large appetites and modest purses. Its crockery and atmosphere were thick. Its soup and napery thin. Right? Into this place, Soapy betook himself without challenge. At a table, he sat and consumed beef stock, flapjacks, donuts, and pie. Then he told the waiter the fact that the minutest coin and himself were total strangers. So now he goes to a very simple restaurant, which was very cheap, not expensive at all, and would serve large amounts of food. So it was a very simple, very cheap kind of restaurant. Wahan pe he eats a lot of food and then he tells the waiter, I don't have any money. Right? Now get busy and call a cop, said Soapy. And don't keep a gentleman waiting. So now Soapy says, go call a cop. I don't have any money. I have eaten all this food and now I can't pay your bill. Right? He says, go and call a cop so that he can arrest me. No cop for you, said the waiter with a voice like butter cakes and an eye like the cherry in the Manhattan cocktail. Hey, kaun? Neatly upon his left ear on the callous pavement, two waiters pitched Soapy. He arose joint by joint as a carpenter's rule opens and dusted his clothes. So now these two, he was picked up by two waiters and thrown on the street. Again, he is not arrested. Arrest now seemed but an elusive dream. He's like, I want to be arrested. Why am I not being arrested? The island seemed very far away. Island is जहाँ पे वो prison है, जहाँ पे jail है. कहता मैं वहाँ पे जा ही नहीं पा रहा हूँ. I've tried to do so many things, but nobody's arresting me. A policeman who stood before a drugstore 2 doors away laughed and walked down the street. Again, he sees a policeman who is walking away. Soapy was seized with a sudden fear that some dreadful enchantment had rendered him immune to arrest. He was in a state of panic, and when he came upon another policeman lounging grandly in front of a glittering theatre, he caught the immediate straw of disorderly conduct. On this, so he says, let me do something that is wrong, that is disorderly, and they are going to arrest me. On the sidewalk, Soapy began to yell drunken gibberish at the top of his harsh voice. He danced, howled, raved, and otherwise disturbed the skies. You know, people who drink a lot, people who get drunk, they shout, they dance, they do funny things, and they say things that people are not able to understand. Gibberish is when somebody is saying something that you can't understand. कुछ लोग ऐसे बोलते हैं ना, drink करके फिर ऐसा बोलते तुम्हें समझ में नहीं आता क्या बोल रहे. That is gibberish. So he started acting as if he's drunk, and he started shouting at the top of his voice and talking gibberish which no one could understand. He was dancing, he was howling, he was raving, and was extremely noisy. It says he disturbed the skies. So that means he made a lot of noise. The policeman merely twirled his club, turned back to Sophie and remarked to a citizen, just one of them Yale lads celebrating the goose egg they give to the Hartsford College. Noisy, but no harm. We've instructions to let them be. But the policeman does not arrest him. He says, oh, we have instructions not to catch these college lads. They make a lot of noise, but they don't mean any harm. Disconsolate. Disconsolate is very unhappy. Why? Because 3 times he tried to get arrested and 3 times he failed. So he is very unhappy. Soapy stopped in his unavailing racket. Would never a policeman lay hands on him? In his fancy, the island seemed an unattainable Arcadia. So that means basically sapna, dream. That he says, I don't think a policeman will ever arrest me. And going to the island is now an impossible dream. He buttoned his thin coat against the chilling wind. It's very cold. That is why he wanted to go to prison, right? To be safe in the cold. In a cigar store, he saw a well-dressed man lighting a cigar at the swinging light. He had set his silk umbrella by the door on entering. Soapy stepped inside, grabbed the umbrella, and sauntered off with it slowly. The man at the cigar light followed hastily. My umbrella, he said sternly. Oh, is it? Sneered Soapy, adding insult to petty larceny. Why? Well, why don't you call a policeman? I took it. Your umbrella. Why don't you call a cop? The one that stands on the corner. So now what does Soapy try and do? He tries to steal a man's silk umbrella. And when the man sees him stealing, he says, okay, call a policeman. Ask him to arrest me. The umbrella owner slowed his steps. Soapy did likewise with a premonition that luck would again run against him. The policeman eyed at the two curiously. So now he's like, I don't think if the policeman will still arrest me. Looks like I'm still going to be unlucky. Of course, said the umbrella man. Well, you know how these mistakes occur if it's your umbrella. I hope you'll excuse me. I picked it up this morning in a restaurant. If you recognize it as yours, why, I hope you'll. And then the umbrella man says, Ki, it's not mine. I think I picked it up at a restaurant. हो सकता है आपकी हो. If it is yours, please take it. So again, Soapy is not arrested. In fact, the man says, if it is your umbrella, take it. It is not mine. I found it at a restaurant. Right? Of course it's mine, said Soapy savagely. And Soapy realized, oh my God, again I'm not going to be arrested. And he says, yes, yes, it's mine only. And he takes the umbrella. The ex-umbrella man retreated. Why ex? Because earlier this man had the umbrella, now Soapy has the umbrella. The policeman hurried to assist a tall blonde with an opera cloak across the streets in front of a streetcar that was approaching 2 blocks away. Soapy walked eastward through a street damaged by improvements. He hurled the umbrella angrily into an excavation. He muttered against the men who wear helmets and carry clubs. Because he wanted to fall into their clutches, they seemed to regard him as a king who could do nothing wrong. So, he was so angry, so upset that I want to be arrested and nobody is arresting me. I want to be arrested, but they are treating me like a king who could do no wrong. At length, Soapy reached one of the avenues in the east where the glitter and turmoil were but faint. He dragged himself towards Madison Square, for the homing instinct survives even when the home is a park bench. So now he decides that I think I'll have to sleep on the park bench. But on an unusually quiet corner, Soapy came to a standstill. Here was an old church, quaint and rambling and gabled. Through one violet-stained window, a soft light glowed where no doubt the organist loitered over the keys, making sure of his mastery of the coming Sabbath anthem. But there drifted out to Soapy's ears sweet music that caught and held him transfixed against the convolutions of the iron fence. So he's crossing a house and then he stops because he hears beautiful music playing in that house, which has an iron fence. So the moon was in the sky. There were very few vehicles and people there. You could hear sparrows twittering. And then you could hear the beautiful music. Right? While Soapy stood there next to the iron fence, just listening to the music. Right? The conjunction of Soapy's receptive state of mind and the influences about the old church brought a sudden and wonderful change in his heart. So when he sees these, he says, why do I want to be arrested? Let me be a good person. Let me do good things with my life. God doesn't want to send me to jail. Right? And in that moment, he decides to be a better person and wants to stop trying to be arrested. A strong impulse moved him to battle with this desperate fact. So now he pulls himself together and he says, I'm going to be a man. I'm going to be a good person. I will not be evil. I'm young. I can do things with my life. I have to stop doing wrong things now, and I want to be a good person because that is what God wants. Right? And then he decides, tomorrow I'm going to go to the town and start looking for work. A fur importer wants a driver. I'll probably apply for a driver's job and I will stop thinking of going to jail. Soapy felt a hand laid on arm. Suddenly he feels a hand on his arm. He quickly turned around into the impassive face of a policeman. "What are you doing here?" asked the officer. "Nothing," said Soapy. "Then come along," said the policeman. 3 months on the island, said the magistrate in the police court the next morning. So, throughout the chapter, Soapy wants to be arrested. He doesn't get arrested. And when he decides, I'm going to be a good person, I'm going to work as a driver, and I'll stop thinking about going to jail, he gets arrested. And next day, when he goes to court, he gets 3 months on the island, means 3 months in jail. Right? So this is what the story is. This is the irony. When Soapy wants to get arrested, he's not arrested. And when Soapy decides, I don't want to get arrested, I want to lead a good life, he gets arrested for 3 months. Right? Now, what are the different ways in which Soapy tried to get arrested? He tried to enter a luxurious cafe. What else? He broke a shop window with a stone. He ate food at a restaurant without paying the bill. And then he shouted, danced, and created disorder on the street, where he pretended to be a drunk man. And he's singing and dancing and shouting on the street, right? So these are the 4 things that Soapy did to try and get arrested, right? Describe the atmosphere where Soapy reached near the church. So this is the portion where he reaches the church. This is the atmosphere, right? So a light glowed on the violin-stained window, right? Then sweet music coming from the church, right? So the soft light glowed through the violet-stained window, sweet music coming from the church. The moon was full and radiant, and the street was quiet and peaceful. It says the moon was full and radiant, and there were very few people. So that means it was quiet there, no noise, right? Okay. Read the story and match the incidents given in column A to the consequences in column B. Consequences is, if you get up late, you reach school late. That's a consequence, parinam, right? First thing is, Soapy tried to enter a cafe. What happened? Strong and steady hands of the head waiter turned him around. But he sees there's a head waiter who's strong and ready, who will not let him enter. So he leaves. He turns around. He goes back. Soapy broke a glass window. What happened? The cop ran after another man. The cop did not arrest Soapy. In fact, he ran after another man. 2 waiters pitched Soapy on the callous pavement. So Soapy had a lot of food and didn't pay the bill. He had no money to pay the bill. He thought now they're going to call the police. But they don't call the police again. The 2 waiters just throw him out of the restaurant. So what happens? He stood up slowly, beating the dust from his clothes. So when he's thrown on the pavement, he gets up and starts dusting his clothes, removing the dust from his clothes. right? Soapy heard the anthem being played in the church. When he hears the anthem, suddenly a wonderful change came in his heart and he thought, let me be a better person. Why do I want to get arrested? Let me lead a good life instead of trying to go to jail. Cop arrests Soapy for hanging around. And then his dream of turning around in life was shattered. So when Soapy thinks of trying to be a better person, the cop arrests him and sends him to jail for 3 months, to prison for 3 months, and his dream of being a better person is shattered. Right? Okay, give reasons and complete the following. Soapy had confidence in himself because initially in the first scene he had confidence because he was wearing a bow and he was wearing a clean shirt. But his trousers and shoes were torn. Right? But he had confidence. He thought, if I'm sitting at the table, the waiter will only see this much. And here I look clean and well dressed. Right? So that is why Soapy had confidence. So Soapy had confidence in himself because his coat was neat and he wore a black bow. Right? That is the reason why he was confident. The head waiter of the luxurious cafe did not allow Soapy to enter because the one who stared down at him, he did not let Soapy enter because he noticed Soapy's torn trousers and old shoes. He saw that he's a poor man. He will not be able to pay the bill of our cafe. So he does not let Soapy enter the cafe. Right? Okay. The cop did not arrest Soapy for breaking the glass window because he thought jo glass window todega wahan khada thodi rahega to be arrested. He is going to run away. So the cop did not arrest Soapy for breaking the glass window because he thought that the criminal had already run away, and because Soapy is still standing there, that means he is not the criminal. He is not at fault. Right? Okay. The cop did not arrest Soapy for shouting and dancing because he thought he's a student and he thought here. He says that he's just making a lot of noise, but he's not going to harm anyone. He says noisy, but no harm. So he thinks he's a college lad. He's a college boy who's noisy, but he doesn't mean to harm anyone. So he's not going to arrest Soapy. The cop did not arrest Soapy for shouting and dancing because he thought Soapy was a college boy celebrating happily. Right? Okay, next question. Pick out the lines from the text that show that Soapy wants to enter the cafe for 2 reasons. What are the 2 reasons that he wants to enter the cafe? One is to eat food and second is to be arrested. Right? Where does it say in the text? Here. He says he's going to eat all this, and then he says the meat would leave him filled and happy for a journey to his winter island. So he says, one, I'm going to have tummy full of food, and secondly, I'll be taken to, he's calling the prison a winter island, right? There he can spend the winter. So this is the evidence for this. Soapy was afraid that he won't be able to enter the prison. When Sophie keeps trying to get arrested and he is not arrested, so he says the island seemed far away. So he's like, I want to go to jail and they're not arresting me. It seems like I will never be able to go there. The island seemed far away. This is the evidence that Soapy felt he will not be able to enter the prison. Soapy was not caught by the cop for throwing stones at the glass. We know this because when he says, maybe I did it, he says, no, no. Here. The policeman refused to accept Soapy even as a clue. Men who smash windows do not remain to chat with the police. So this is an evidence that the policeman refused to arrest Soapy for breaking the glass window. Right? So he's not caught by the cop for throwing stones at the glass. Soapy did not want the umbrella. We know that he didn't want the umbrella. He just wanted to be arrested for stealing the umbrella. Right? How do we know he didn't want to actually steal? Because he tells the person that you can call the police now. Right? He says, well, why don't you call a policeman? I took it, your umbrella. So this shows that he didn't want the umbrella. He wanted to be arrested. किसी तरह मुझे police arrest करके ले जाए and then आराम से I can spend the harsh winters in prison. Right? Listening to the anthem, Soapy remembered his good old days. So when Soapy heard the anthem, he thought, I was a nice person once. How did I become this person? Let me try and become a good person again. Let me give up this bad road that I have taken. Let me give up the intention or the wish to go to jail and let me work hard and have a decent life. So when he heard the anthem, he remembered his good old days. He was like, मैं इतना अच्छा इंसान था. When did I become a bad person? Right? So if you go to this anthem paragraph, you will know that he says this evil that has enslaved him, he is going to give that up. And he remembered how he had tumbled, degraded days, unworthy desires, dead hopes. And he remembers that over time, he's become a bad person, right? So he was not always like that. So when he heard the anthem, he remembered his good old days. He would make a man of himself again. What does man mean? Here man means someone with respect, right? Right now he wants to be arrested as a thief, right? But he wants to be a respectable person. He wants to be a responsible person. So man means respectable and responsible, right? Okay. How does he contrast his earlier life and present life? Pehle he had friends, he had roses. Now he has unworthy desires like to be arrested by the police, to eat food without paying the bill, to steal people's things so he can go to jail. Right? Pehle he had ambitions, he wanted to do something in life, and now his hopes are dead, right? Now his hopes are dead. And Pehle, he had immaculate thoughts. He was a smart person. And now his thinking is wrecked. He had hopes earlier, now his hopes are dead. Now, earlier he was very smart, now he has wrecked faculties. He cannot think straight. He can only think negative and bad things, right? So this is the comparison. पहले कैसा था सोपी और आज कैसा है, right? After listening to the sweet and solemn organ notes, Soapy decides to be a better person, lead a new life. Okay? Now these are some questions based on write an incident where you did something wrong and repented it later. ये आप अपना लिख सकते हैं personally when you made a mistake and बाद में you realize I shouldn't have done this and you admit your mistake and you decide not to do it again. Okay? O. Henry used different words to indicate prison where Soapy wants to reach. So different words like magic island and what all? He says island, limbo, confinement, prison. He uses different words for prison, right? And which words show that degraded state of Soapy? यहाँ पे सारे हैं ये unworthy desires, degraded days, dead hopes, wrecked faculties, base motives. All these show that Soapy now is degraded as a person. He is no longer the good person, the positive person that he was when he was, before he became a criminal, right? Now the specific meaning of the word anthem in this is, here anthem means the music coming from the church that changes Soapy's thinking. Now convert these sentences into negative without changing their meaning. You can do that. I'm going to share this resource with you. Here, these are negative sentences. You have to change them into positive without changing their meaning. You can try and do this. Write 2 paragraphs. Forgiveness is better than punishment. Right? So these are some independent writing exercises that you can do. I'm going to share a resource with you which will have all these answers for you. Okay? So you will have an entire resource which will have the answer to the icebreakers, which will have the new words meanings and a sentence. So you can learn the new vocabulary. There is also a short summary, the chapter in very short, right? And then here are the answers for the text. Okay. So after the class, I'll share this with you. Make sure you write and practice with it. Okay. You don't learn English by reading. Just reading is not enough. Make sure you say it aloud. Make sure you pronounce the words. Make sure you write down your responses. Okay. Because language is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And for exams, we need to write. Okay. So I'm going to share this resource with you and I'll see you in the next class. Any questions, Bete?